So any thoughts with respect to relatability, impact, if you would recommend the program to other schools?
I would highly recommend this program to other schools. The turnaround rate between the presentation that Mr. Peace gave and the effect it had on the kids and staff was remarkable and very quick turnaround. Right away after the first assembly, we had kids going back to class, writing stories to each other, apology letters, stories about the impact that Mr. Peace had on their day, on their emotions, on their outlook. It was really impressive. In fact, there was one student that comes to mind that sticks out because he's probably the top behavior of our school and has had very difficult time staying in the classroom for 15 minutes at a time. He stayed very engaged throughout the whole assembly, did not break eye contact with Mr. Peace, was fully engaged in the video that Mr. Peace showed, and was very calm, which is very unlike this student. He went back to class, and by the time the next assembly was over, there were back-to-back assemblies. By the time the next assembly was over, the principal had come down and showed us a note that he wrote and gave to her, and it was an apology letter for his behaviors and for his disruptiveness and his opposition and defiance, basically. He wrote an apology letter to the principal and delivered it to her personally, which is, again, not like him. He also wrote an apology letter to his whole class for being so disruptive and defiant and destructive within the classroom. And he wrote an apology letter to another student that he had offended the day before. And if I could just describe this student, that's polar opposite of the characteristics which he presented to us all year long. He's a new student to us, and he had a very difficult time. Like I said, he hasn't even been in class for more than 15 minutes at a time. So he's also been hospitalized in different treatment centers, and all of a sudden, within 45 minutes of Mr. Peace's presentation, he was just emulating kindness, thoughtfulness. He's starting an anti-bullying group. And this is all coming out of his own heart and brain just from this presentation. So I would highly recommend it. One more thing about the turnaround rate that I noticed was it wasn't only kids that were just wanting to come up to Mr. Peace and give him a hug and tell them their story, or just say thank you for what, we don't really know, but they just felt loved and they just felt appreciated, and they definitely felt special in Mr. Peace's presence. But also staff, adults, we have a substitute teacher who came into our school for the first time today. She's in her 60s, and she was in tears during Mr. Peace's presentation and came to him separately and said, "Thank you for your message. I needed that. It healed some wounds that she had experienced as a child, and she's in her 60s." So it was an amazing thing to witness, the healing that took place in a 45-minute session with Mr. Peace. So yes, please get him to your schools immediately.